Welcome to the UIAAA Connection podcast. Hometown Ticketing is proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the UIAAA Connection podcast and to provide schools nationwide with the best options for digital ticketing for their events. Visit their website at hometownticketing.com to learn how they can make digital ticketing possible and simple at your school. Thank you to Hometown Ticketing for their exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection podcast.
Welcome back to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch Hunter. Today we have as our special guest, Jordan Blanchard, Certified Athletic Administrator, the Athletic Director at Mountain View High School. Welcome to the program, Jordan.
Thank you for having me.
Let's have you begin by sharing with our audience here in Utah and across the nation where you grew up, where you went to college, your first job, etc.
Yeah, I grew up in the state of Oregon, about an hour south of Portland, in a small rural town called Dayton. At the time, we were class 2 out of 4 classes, so there were 350 students at my high school. And then after graduation, I attended Brigham Young University here in Utah, in Provo, Utah, then stayed here after getting married and pursued a master's degree from Southern Utah University. My first teaching position was down at Salem Junior High School. That's about a little over an hour-ish from south of Salt Lake. And Salem Junior High School was just opening the first year I was there. So it was really fun for me to be in a new school, new equipment, all those kind of startup things, and to set some culture things right off the bat. And then after 4 years at Salem Junior High, I moved here to Mountain View High School in the physical education department, taught some health, did a lot of strength and conditioning things before I moved into the athletic director position.
Well, then let's answer the burning question, since you're from Oregon. And we're recording this, we'll play later, but just last week on today when we recorded, Beavers or Ducks?
Had I not attended BYU, I would have went to Oregon State.
Okay, so Beavers is the correct answer.
Beavers is the correct answer for me.
And so you were happy last Saturday when they beat
I was
Oregon.
very happy. I was really stoked.
All right, that's excellent. Let's talk about your athletic path. Were you able to play any youth sports when you were up in Oregon, possibly in high school? Did you play anything in college? I'll let you take it from there.
I think I was probably pretty typical of a lot of coaches and maybe athletic directors. I tried to play every sport I could when I was growing up. So grade school, it was, 5 or 6 seasons in a year, football, basketball, wrestling, baseball, soccer, all of those things. As I got into high school, focused most on football and track and field. Then as I moved to BYU, tried to walk on as a football player at BYU, and that was not in the cards. That didn't work out for me, but I had the privilege of being a part of their rugby team at BYU. So the 3 years I was on the team, we went to the national championship each of those 3 years. The first 2, we lost to Cal Berkeley, and then the final year, my senior year, we beat Arkansas State for the national championship. So that was it was fun for me to be a part of a team in that way, to train with the team, to travel with the team and things like that. I wasn't always a first team player, but I worked really hard, and it was really fun for me to be a part of that team.
Well, that's fascinating. Thanks so much for sharing that. Let's have you then talk for a minute on the side here. You played football in high school, you played rugby in college, and for those of us that are not as educated on the rugby side, explain some of the major differences, because obviously the ball is different. People think there's a lot the same, but I think there's probably a lot different. I'll turn it over to you.
I think the biggest difference is obviously no forward passing in rugby. So all of your passes have to be backwards or lateral backwards, like an option play would have to be in football. And then tackling, you have to tackle correctly. You have to tackle safely when you're playing rugby, because you have no padding on your head or your shoulders or anything like that. So you pull your head clear out of the equation. You don't slam people on the ground, all of those type of things, because it's an etiquette type thing. You don't do those things. Now, that doesn't mean you don't hit really hard and you don't run into people, but you just do it in a much safer way.
Well, thanks for sharing that. That's fascinating. I think you're the first college rugby player we've had on the podcast. So thanks so much for sharing that. Let's change track for a minute, and let's in your younger years and in your professional career, let's talk about some of the mentors or leaders that made a huge difference in your life. Talk about them and explain why they made a difference in your life.
Well, I think my first kind of mentor or maybe idol or something like that would be my high school football coach. He coached my dad in football many years before that. So he was in his 80s when he was coaching me. His name was Dewey Sullivan in Oregon. He, as of a couple of years ago, he still had the winningest record in the state of Oregon when he was actively coaching. And his final year was 1 year after I graduated, 2007. He had the winningest record of any high school football coach west of the Mississippi River. So growing up, I wanted to play for him. I wanted to be on his team. And some things I admired about him is I'm not sure I ever heard him swear. Right? He was obviously very passionate. He cared about things, but he did it in a way he just didn't need to. He didn't need to swear. He didn't need to do those type of things. And his teams, he built a foundation that people understood his offense and his defense all the way. We were running it from third grade on, and all the coaches knew what the system was and stuff like that. But again, more than wins and losses, I think I knew that he cared about me, and I knew he was a good person. And so that's someone that I wanted to be like. And so as I got to college, it was kind of an easy, I don't want to say easy, but that really helped guide my my position in my educational path, because I wanted to be a lot like him. Since then, I've had a lot of administrators that have worked hard to educate me, but also trusted me to make decisions. And I look back at each of my administrators who's been over physical education and our athletic department, and they had a tremendous amount of trust in me and the decisions that I was making, which is really empowering. We all hope that we can be that type of leader where you help the people that you're leading to be the very best version of themselves. And I feel like a lot of my administrators have done that. They've all taught me really different things, but it's been really important in my career path.
That's fascinating. Thanks so much for sharing. Let me ask you a personal question. What's your biggest failure or disappointment in life, and what did you learn from it?
Well, if I think about that professional, I think, and without explicitly saying what my biggest failure is, I think my failures have been when I saw a problem and I didn't work to fix it immediately. So I recognized that something was wrong, I knew that something should be done, but I was hesitant to fix it for whatever reason, because I didn't want to hurt someone's feelings, because I didn't want to make a scene or, something like that. And that's never a way to solve a problem. You have to address a problem in order to solve it. And so I've been trying to learn to, when I see and recognize issues that can be improved or fixed, to address those issues quickly, but then to also do it in a way that's received by the individual or the group who's receiving that feedback, right? If I come in crazy hot and angry, that's probably not the best way. If I come in really passive, that's also probably not the best way. So just being clear and tactful about feedback, and then doing it in a timely manner.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Let's switch bases now, and let's you share with our audience how you became an athletic administrator. How did you become the AD? You were working on the PE side. You went from a middle school to a high school, and all of a sudden you're the AD. How does that happen at Mountain View?
Yeah. Like I said, I had some administrators who had a lot of trust in me, that when I first came to Mountain View, so in my 6th year of teaching, they invited me to be a professional learning coach. So to help other teachers look at data and improve their teaching. And so I did that for a couple of years while continuing to teach in the PE department. And that really allowed me to build a lot of relationships with other teachers within the building. And I think after doing that successfully, when the athletic director position opened, I think that was kind of a natural transition into leading our athletic department after I'd worked with a lot of our teachers.
You think about Mountain View for our listeners out there. You've got two former presidents of the association that were ADs at Mountain View, Joel Gardner from long before you were there, and more recently, Mike Hunter, and then, of course, the executive director of the UHSAA, Rob Cuff, for a very short time was the AD at
Yes.
Mountain View.
There are trophies down, state championship trophies down in our trophy case with each of those guys' names on them. Yeah.
And so you're continuing the legacy there at Mountain View.
Oh, I hope so.
Excellent. Talk about the job of athletic administrator today and talk about how it's changed since you first started. Now, I realize you haven't been an AD for years and years, but you've got a few years behind you. Just in the short time you've become an AD, how has the job changed, for better or worse?
I think the expectation of the things that we do, the services that we provide to our community has increased. So here in the state of Utah, just in the last 3 years, we've added girls wrestling as a sport, boys and girls lacrosse, and cheer, co-ed cheer. And we'll be adding boys volleyball next spring, so a year and a half from now. So 5 sports in 5 years or something like that. And so that adds a lot of management and supervision and coaching, hiring, and all of those things. So the expectation of what one person can do has definitely increased. I also feel like communities expect athletic programs at the high school level to look and feel and function like a collegiate or professional program in a lot of ways. Though things we do with social media, our website use, how an event looks and feels, what it's like during halftime and things like that. And so, I mean, we have youth football teams that have food trucks at their games on Saturdays, that have music during halftime and during timeouts. Those are things I never had as a youth football player. But they have them as third graders. So that expectation just carries all the way up to high school, that things have to get bigger and better and more exciting.
Sure. Let's talk about your journey. Well, a little bit more about your journey. You were in the Alpine District at Mountain View, before that down in Nebo, and talk about your journey, how you became involved with the UIAAA and eventually got to be certified.
Well, thankfully, when I was transitioning here at Mountain View High School into the athletic director position, our administration, they allowed the current AD at the time, and then me, the future AD, to go down to the UIAAA conference in Southern Utah. And that really helped establish, even before I'd formally taken the position, that being a part of this organization was important. For me, it is really important because the relationships that I formed with individuals in the group, those are the people that I work with every day. When I do something wrong and I schedule something wrong, or I don't get officials or something like that, and I've got to call someone, it's awesome when I already know them. You know, I have that relationship capital because we've had lunch together, or we've attended LTI classes together. And so we know we have some commonalities in that way. So the organization, as far as the relationships it facilitates, has been really good for me. Obviously, the knowledge and the things that you learn from courses and mentorships and those programs has been, you can't put a price on that. That's been amazing for me.
And so how long have you been the director of athletics at Mountain View? Has it been, what, 6 years, 5 years?
This is my 4th year right
now. 4th
now.
year, okay.
Yep.
So that's what happens when you get to be my age. Your mind goes, you think it's longer than it is. Let's talk for a minute about the UIAAA Directors Cup. And I know that's special to you because Mountain View is a previous winner from previous years of that cup. So talk about that and what's it like to be the AD that wins the Directors Cup, and what's it like for your students, more importantly?
Yeah, the Directors Cup is a reflection of academics, athletic placing in state tournaments at the end of the year, and then sportsmanship, or participation in sportsmanship programs at the UHSAA level. And so for me, it's really nice to show that it's more than just wins and losses for our school. We want our kids to be successful. We want our kids to be winning on the athletic playing field or in their competitions, but they are student athletes. And so what types of athletes, student athletes, are we making? Ones that are successful in the classroom, hopefully, and then also student athletes who are good people. And so for me, I feel like there's not a lot of thanks that come with being an athletic director. When someone's reaching out to you, it's probably because they need something or something went wrong or they're disappointed with something. But earning a director's cup kind of says, oh, the things we are doing are good. We're on the right track. We're doing good things. And it's fun for the kids to, when they've won academic state championships, man, they are so proud of that, right? Holding that plaque up. And that's obviously a part of the director's cup. And then, bringing that cup home a couple of times. I think it just, our kids, it just obviously just makes them feel great.
Thank you for sharing that. Let's talk for a moment about the importance of certification. You're kind of the exception rather than the rule, because you've been certified at least for a year and a half, if my memory serves me right. You've only been an AD for 4 years, but you took that step to become certified. So I want you to share with our audience why you think it's important to be certified and what it was like for you, for maybe those out there that are hesitant to go down that path.
Well, my belief has always been that whatever I'm doing, I'm going to try to learn the most and be the best version of whatever that is. So in strength and conditioning, prior to being an AD, I really wanted to get certifications that would help me better as I functioned in the weight room. As I moved on to being an athletic director, that same type of rule applied, right? If it was possible that I could be mentored and learn and be a part of a group that would help me, I wanted to do that. And so certification for me, I mean, no one in my school, I shared with my principal that I'm a CAA, right? But no one really knows that I'm a CAA. So it's not about that. It's just about me personally knowing that I've put in the time, that I'm attempting to be the best version of myself in this position as possible. And so I would just really encourage anyone who's on the fence. It's kind of like, why wouldn't you do it? What's stopping you, right? It's only going to make you better at your job, help you know more, build better connections, be a part of your state organization. And then, there's the additional benefits of some liability things, insurances and things like that, which are awesome, obviously too. But yeah, it seemed like a no-brainer for me. So that's why I just went after it as quickly as I could.
Very good. You mentioned earlier about your associations, having lunch with ADs, the networking that occurs at the conference. Basically, it's another word for the UIAAA family that we talk so much about on this podcast and others across the United States. I want you to talk about the UIAAA family and how it's different. It's different from just a regular coaches association. So I'll turn it over to you.
I think sometimes in coaching associations or other associations, there's a level of competition. I can't share my secrets because I don't want that other coach to get a leg up on my team, type of thing. But here, that's never the case. None of us are running teams per se, right? We're helping administer athletic departments. And so I've been really thankful for individuals. They've been so willing to share what they know, right? If I have a question about something, I can call and text several different ADs throughout the state. They help me do that. And they help me through some of those issues. I don't know. I can't imagine taking on this role without having, a UIAAA family that I could go to when I needed help or I had a question about something. So that part of it's been really awesome.
Jordan, share with our audience, what's the favorite part of your job?
My favorite part of this job is celebrating kids. This last week, we went in and we took t-shirts to students who had played multiple sports, so multi-sport athletes. So if they had played a sport in the fall, now they're playing a sport in the winter. We took them a t-shirt with our MV logo. On the back, it says, I play too, because they play two or more sports. And just seeing the big smile on their face as they were like, yeah, I am cool. I am great. I'm doing two sports. And like I said, celebrating academic state championships, celebrating all region things. I just, the opportunities that I get to celebrate with kids, those are by far the best. Those are awesome.
Excellent. Thanks so much for sharing that. Seeing the joy on those kids' face, I really think that's what it's about in our business, to see them smile and to see them progress. Let's finish up with a couple of questions, Jordan. The first being, for a new AD, 1 to 4 years, actually, you kind of fall into that.
Yeah.
You're more than a new AD. So if you had 2 suggestions for a new athletic administrator, that they needed to follow these suggestions in order to be successful, what would your 2 suggestions be?
My first suggestion would be find a way to be a part of your state organization, or to find a mentor, maybe several mentors that you trust, that you know do a good job, because it's really lonely doing this job alone, and trying to accomplish all this stuff. You need people on your team or people that you can go to help. The other part of it, I would say, is be just meticulous about record keeping year over year. Whether you keep things in a Google Drive or some type of cloud online, or you use a filing cabinet. But I often go back to previous years. Oh, we got a bid on this thing. How much did it cost then 4 years ago? How much does it cost? And having those records year over year, having records of our professional development activities, having records of everything we've done in the past has been really helpful. So just being meticulous about record keeping.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Let's finish with this question, Jordan. What question should I have asked you that I have failed to ask you?
Oh, that's a tough one, Hutch. I mean, I think you could ask all kinds of questions about, where do you want your programs to go? What's the biggest thing maybe you're working on right now in the athletic department? What gets you excited about it? Although you touch on it a little bit with, what do you love most about your job?
Well, then let's
appreciate all of your questions, Hutch. So
let's give you a chance to talk about what's the biggest thing you're working on right now.
Well, if you could see 2002 in the room that I'm in, I've worked really hard the last couple of years to improve the number of sponsorships that come into our athletic program, to bring monies into our program to supplement player fees, but also to purchase new equipment and stuff like that. And I've got several TVs in here right now that I'm trying to figure out how to get on the wall, because that's how we'll show advertisements in our gymnasium. So once in a while, I just buying technology, always kind of fun. That's the big project I'm working on, figuring out how to get these things on the wall and get them functioning for sponsorship.
Well, I like it. So let me ask you a follow-up. So obviously they're big screen TVs.
They are.
And so you've decided, I kind of like this because it's something I never thought of. Of course, I've been retired for a few years. So you're going with the big screen TV and a banner. So the banner can be one banner and 30 seconds be another one.
Exactly.
And do it that way rather than have the banners across the top. I like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, in our main gym right now, we have a little over 50 banners, sponsorships that we've sold, and we're planning to put 5 TVs up. And it's just going to clean up our gym and what the gym looks like and just organize it a lot. And then it gives us the ability to change it, right? If during the school day, during class periods, we want to have and recognize something else, we can. In the evenings during athletics, we can have different slideshows going and stuff like that. So I think it'll be really good. Once we figure out the logistics of TVs and how to hang them in the right spots, it'll be really cool.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. It's something that I had in all the podcasts we've had, 103 of them now. No one's ever talked about that, and I never really thought about that back when I was at Jordan years ago. So I can see the positives of that and how that's a little bit cleaner look than maybe having so many banners. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
On that note, that wraps it up for this edition of the UIAAA Connection. Again, our guest today has been Jordan Blanchard, Certified Athletic Administrator and Director of Athletics at Mountain View High School. Jordan, thanks for being on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
For our listeners, we hope you tune in again next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection.